Hello, my name is Sabelun Weisbach, and this is my presentation on Germany. Um, the first of Hofstede's cultural dimensions that we will explore is power distance. This is the measure of distance between authority and subordinates. Germany leans towards a low power distance. This means that employees and students are treated more as equals. Um, if there's an idea or discussion to be had, their input will be taken seriously. There's also more mobility between the ranks. Now, this isn't applicable to a student, but for employees, if you have skill and experience, you will be able to be promoted earlier, for example. However, there is still order and the hierarchy must be respected. Germany is very big on respect and hierarchy. As you can see from this picture that I chose, the colors are in careful order and the parking jobs are very good because Germany really does value that order. Um, the second cultural dimension we'll explore is long term. This is the measure of a culture valuing short-term benefits over long-term or vice versa. Germany is fairly close to the middle with a score of 57, only slightly leaning towards the long term. This does mean that they are fairly balanced, but are slightly inclined towards adapting traditions and compromising in favor of a better outcome later. This is exemplified by their policies, which are shown in these signs here, which have a strong focus on environmentalism and growth and acceptance, and these very orderly cans where you can throw away your trash or recycling. Um, the third and final cultural dimension is restraint. This measures whether a culture is more interested in pleasure or not. Germany is closer to restraint with a score of 40. This means that their citizens are slightly more pessimistic and rigid, and they care a bit less about leisure. Now, I mostly chose this example because I wanted to show off Germany's beautiful architecture, but here's this stunning castle with a huge amount of land that has beautiful gardens on it. However, it's still very practical as it is on a moat and can act as a fortress. So even in their appreciation of beauty, they still have a lot of this practical, restrained nature. Now for communication, I split this up into as a tourist, and long term. So if you're just visiting Germany for a little bit, like on a business trip or for a vacation, these tips might be more helpful to you. Um, do not be afraid of nudity. It's accepted and somewhat common in Germany. So if you visit a beach or maybe a pool, you might see somebody naked, and that's perfectly fine there. So don't be surprised or afraid of it. I would have included an example, but of course, nudity is not as accepted here, so it would be a little bit inappropriate for me to include a picture. You also might need to shake hands. Germans really appreciate a good firm handshake, so you may want to practice your grip. If you're a gentleman weak, you may be judged a little bit. Most German restaurants are self-seating, unlike an American restaurant where there's a host or hostess who guides you towards a table. And because they're self-seating, you may end up sitting with strangers at a restaurant. If there's an open seat, you can just ask, "Hey, can I sit here? Is a seat available?" And they'll probably say yes. So you may sit next to strangers for a meal. And you don't need to make conversation with them. It'll just be comfortable silence potentially. Also, you should say hello to everybody in small shops. So to other customers, and any employees that might be in there. Um, Now, here's communication for the long term. So if you're going to be staying in Germany for more than a couple of months, maybe you're there on a student visa, or you're just planning to move there and live there forever. These will be more helpful to you. Germans are very direct. Be clear when communicating with them. Don't make assumptions. Don't be wishy-washy. Just ask them directly. What they're thinking, and they will respond honestly. And for yourself, just say what you want or need. Don't be vague. Be very careful with correctly sorting and throwing away garbage. I mentioned this earlier. It is both legal and social. Germans will consider you very terrible if you do not properly recycle. Also, be extremely punctual for appointments. Germans value good timekeeping. Do not be late. Always try to be a little bit early so that you can be on time just in case. Also, If you're invited to somebody's home, bring a gift, usually flowers, or something like a wine is acceptable. If it's flowers, get rid of the paper wrapping before you give it to them. Also, when you're invited to somebody's house, don't enter other rooms unless they invite you to. It's very rude, like if you rifle through somebody's drawer. They really value their privacy. For food, manners. It's pretty important to know manners when eating. So drinking is very common in Germany, and the host may make a toast. Clink glasses and say a quick Prost, which is like cheers, or Zum Wohl, which is good health. Or simply nod to the other parties. Then you may drink and eat after that toast is concluded. You're usually expected to serve yourself from plates around the table. So there will be a dish in front of you and you'll take your portion from it. Um, Germans also sometimes still practice fork etiquette. So a crossed fork and knife indicates that you are not finished eating, but parallel fork and knife means that you are finished eating. So then a waiter could take away your plate. Um, Also, do not rest your arm in your lap or on the table. Always hold your fork and knife in each hand. Doing otherwise is rude. Of course, you can pause and put them down, as the previous statement says. Um, if you're still hungry, directly ask for another serving. Your host wants to make sure that you are full and satisfied. And they don't want you to be like, oh, I'm still so hungry. Or imply that they're a bad host or anything. Um, and here's some examples of fork layout for a fancier meal. Um, you usually start on the outside and travel inside with forks and knives and such. Um, Now for food, here's some traditional recipes that are very common. Um, there's so many variations on potato dishes, such as potatoes with quark. Quark is a yogurt, or cream cheese like soft, tangy cheese. And you can see a picture here included. There are also palms, which are French fries, fried potatoes, and potato dumplings. There are also so many other potato dishes, but it would be impossible to list them all. Other common German foods are heavier meat-based dishes like pork knuckles, which are ham hocks, sauerbraten, which is marinated sour meat, bratwurst, sausages, and schnitzel, breaded pork cutlet. Um, and other classics include cabbage dishes, such as Rotkohl, which is red cabbage, as you can see here, sauerkraut, Kohlrouladen, which is a rolled pastry with cabbage in it, and German borscht, which is a variation on Ukrainian borscht. Um, and I wanted to include an example of a holiday meal because Christmas, winter holidays are coming up. Many Germans celebrate Christmas. They are a Catholic country, but it is a bit different from Christmas here in America. They usually celebrate Christmas on the 24th rather than the 25th, and they will attend midnight mass on the 24th. They'll usually eat fish for dinner then because it's a lighter meal and it's easier to get through mass with a lighter meal. The next day, they'll have a nice breakfast, which is often cold meats and cheeses. This is a pretty typical breakfast for Germans. They don't have a breakfast like Americans do. And dinner will be a beautiful roast turkey, goose, or duck. This is often served alongside bread dumplings. Germans have a lot of dumplings. And the bread dumplings will either be in a more typical bun roll shape, or they can be in a loaf of bread, which is more common around Christmas. They also don't typically have like one um uh standard dessert. They may not have a dessert at all. But if they do, it'll likely be a spiced pudding or maybe some fruit. Um, and that is my presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned something about Germany today.